Stances Everything GMC pickup project, aka Project by Weight. In this episode, I'm going to finally show you guys the back half of the truck, something I've been teasing about for a little bit, but it's just been sort of under some covers for a bit while I did some of the fabrication, so that's why I haven't shown you guys it so far. I've ripped all that off today so I can walk you guys through it. So for those of you who've been following the project for a while, then you know that I didn't actually build much of this back half at all. It was done predominantly by Jeff Wybrow of IssyFab, Dave Newberry of Hitman Hot Rods, and JP of Stripping Tech, while they were all together in sort of a garage called Works Garage. They ended up doing all the fabrication suspension wise, putting in the 4-link, so it's a triangulated 4-link with RE7 bags, and where they left it off, I had to do shock mounts, fuel cell mount, and air management mount. So I'm going to walk you guys through the back half and what I've done and what they've done and sort of how we've ended up where we're at right now. So to start at the rear, we've got an RCI fuel cell, an Aeromotive Stealth pump. Both of these things were bought through Performance Improvements. The Aeromotive Stealth pump is awesome. Cut a hole, drop it in, you're pretty well done. These hoses are Russell, I'm going to say Pro Classic 2, which means they're all black without a blue tracer through it. And the fittings are Russell and Vibrant, I believe. And then I've got Via Air black compressors. The tanks are going to be black as well, so everything back here is going to be really matching. I've spent a lot of time aesthetically trying to make the back half look as good as possible, so I'm going to touch on that a lot in this video, just choices that I made to have everything looking clean. On that note, all this hardware that you see is probably going to end up changing again for that same reason. These are simple Monroe Shocks from a hard body. A lot of air ride guys use these because they're pretty short collapse height, but then they extend decently as well, so they work really good for the rear end. For those of you who have been following for a long time, you know that I had to move these shock mounts after I mounted them in a dumb spot and they ended up hitting this link bar, or this reinforcement bar. That sucked, but everything's moved now. If you want to see that fiasco, go to stanceseverything.com, check out the Project Y Weight section, and I believe it's 3 or 4 posts back. So the back half of this truck, one of the cool features about it is that the link bars mount here into the cross member, and it kind of gives a really clean look. That's what I wanted to carry forward to figuring out the whole rest of the truck. So that's what led me to decisions like, if you guys noticed before, the fuel lines come out of the frame and go right into the Aeromotive pump. And the big reason that I did stuff like this is just I really didn't want to clutter up what those guys had sort of set up here. And so I had to do my best to sort of think of what they were planning and sort of work from there to keep everything clean. With my brake line, so the brake lines pop through here. So this being the factory frame, it is a C channel, which gives me a bit more room to work. Brake line pops out through there, runs up here, down through there, over to this flex hose, and then tees off here to go to each caliper. I've covered the brake hose in wire loom, kind of the braided one, to match the braided hosing of the Russell hose that I'd shown you guys earlier. Again, that's just to keep things looking nice and clean, and sort of cohesive, and not like an afterthought, not like, oh, this guy forgot how to mount his brakes, so he just jammed some stuff in there. That's not what I wanted. The rear end of the truck is from an F body, so a 3rd gen Camaro or Trans Am. In this case, I believe it was from a Trans Am. It's the 9-bolt rear end, which sucks because, for those of you who don't know, quick run through of the 9-bolt rear end. It was made in Australia. Parts are hard to find. It holds up okay, but parts are really hard to find. I actually have 2.5 rear ends right now. I needed half of one to make this rear end. I believe it's a 373 gearing now. Otis Gear here in Oshawa rebuilt it for me. And then I have a couple of spares just in case anything breaks, because they're hard to find. I do have to figure out my e-brake setup. I think I'm going to go with one of those electric e-brakes and actually pull the cables backwards, again, just to keep clutter free sort of up there, but I haven't quite figured that out. The electric e-brakes do cost a little bit of money, so I'm sort of in a budgeting phase right now just to figure out how I'm going to pay for everything. The Airlift Harness, similar to sort of the brake lines, comes out of the frame here, runs across this cross member which I built, and plugs in sort of the bottom here. That'll be pretty all said and done. It'll be really tidy for a pretty well wired air suspension setup. You can't really see any wires sort of anywhere. which is really what I wanted. The compressor wires come out of the frame, the ride height sensor wires come out of the frame, everything was sort of run through there. Doing that really sucked, but I ended up getting it sorted out. I ended up using a wire snake to sort of fish everything through there, and it was just tedious. I did it twice because I didn't like how I did it the first time, but in the end it all worked out. So there's my ride height sensor right there. It goes onto the bottom of the link bar, and that is basically the back half of the truck in a nutshell. In the last video, the truck was on the ground and it was looking pretty cool, but I've lifted it back up because I needed to mount the front bumper of the truck. Being that this is a G-body clip, there was no provisions for the 1951 bumper, but I figured all of that out in the last 2 weeks or so. So now what's left is to just get this truck blown back apart so that I can get the cab off to get some paint done, and then once it comes back, I'm going to jam it back together and then hopefully get it off to Jeff to wire and fire. While the cab's gone, I'm going to do a couple of things chassis-wise that I need to sort of button up. One of them is the transmission cross member. Another one is running a few more wires for things like taillights and stuff like that. But 2020 vision is still very much a thing, and I hope to get this moving before this year is out. So I'll catch you guys in the next video.